Hello and welcome to Kankakee Podcast, where we talk about the people and places of Kankakee County. I'm Jake Lamore, and this episode we're going to meet a duo that has started a movement here in the county. But actually, it's kind of a movement that's been going on, I feel like, across the country. And this is just, we're kind of like locally focusing on a group that's doing it here locally. They have a club, a social club called the AF Social Club. And it's about living a alcohol-free lifestyle. And they're celebrating their 1-year anniversary. I don't know if today is the exact day or it's around the same time, right?
Yeah.
But we're welcoming Sarah and Laura. Sarah, Marion, Laura, I don't know your last name.
I go by two last names, so it's Goodale and Platt.
Okay.
So Laura Goodale-Platt.
Okay, well, it's so great to have both of you here. Now, both of you have are known for many different things in the community. People are like, Sarah Marion, that sounds familiar. Well, you went from being a teacher, then being the president of the Manteno Chamber of Commerce. Now you have your own company, Athena Advisory, and then you do work for others outside of that as well. And then Laura, I know you, I met you first online for being a medium. That's correct. I'm sure you do other things outside that too.
Yes, I have a corporate job at Cigna. So I do the corporate world. But yeah, and mom, wife, all those fun titles.
All those things, yes. Yeah. And AF Social.
Yes.
So I want to know, how did you two meet? I feel like does it start there, or does it start, I don't know where this story starts.
It does kind of start there, right?
Well, no, actually it starts at Oktoberfest because Laura was one of my number one volunteers at Oktoberfest, and all throughout my career with the chamber and the village, she was there volunteering her time, and so she was one of my lead volunteers, and so that's how our friendship sparked.
Okay, so just the many years of volunteering, and probably the reason why you got looped into volunteering at Manteno Oktoberfest is your mom, who's sitting in the room right now, Deb. Shout out to Deb for hanging with us.
Yes.
And so I imagine that's how you got looped into being an Oktoberfest volunteer.
It sure is. She did volunteering for many years and was like, hey, we need some help on the committee. Would you want to do the pet parade? And I was like, okay, I guess I'll do that. And lo and behold, I loved it. I enjoyed working with everybody. I loved the community volunteering aspect and just meeting people. And yeah, later on, I started the street vendors. And yeah, we just ended up meeting Sarah. It was all part of the alignment, and it worked out great.
And those years of volunteering for Manteno Oktoberfest, and I'm sure obviously other events outside of that, the two of you would have conversations, I would assume, about the alcohol, whether you like it or not, or whatever the in-between is. I'm just curious as to how the club started.
Yeah, so I mean, Laura and I would once in a while catch up just on a personal level, get a glass of wine here and there, or go get dinner and have a good time. But there came a day that it was actually 18 months ago on the 18th that I decided to quit drinking. And Laura that day, I think, was texting me. I was like, hey, do you want to come over and have wine on my porch with me? And I was like, well, actually, I decided to take a break from drinking. I will come over. I'll have a soda water. You can have your wine. We're good. And she's like, okay, well, no, actually, I'll have soda water with you. No big deal. Yeah. And so it kind of started there. And then 6 months later, time had passed. We really didn't connect much about not drinking. We really didn't talk about it. I was kind of, navigating my new lifestyle. And I reached out to Laura and said, hey, I've been really kind of thinking about this. What about a group for women to get together to do social events once a month, maybe kayak, yoga, what have you, and just to do something fun without drinking, because I am bored. And
that's what happens,
yes.
Right? And I think that's, I'm sure we'll get into the thick of all that too, but that's one of the things that does prevent people from stopping drinking if they're thinking about it. They're thinking, yeah, but or maybe they try it and then that's what happens. They're so bored.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I didn't mean to.
Yeah, no, it's so true. And of course, Laura was game. And really, I don't know that I would have gone forward without her encouragement and willingness to help me launch. So so from day one we launched it, and our dinner was at Koi with 6 of us, and we went from there. So.
And it works out well. We work well together, obviously, from our past of just working together. So that organization skill part, I was like, you do, the social media, all of that aspects, because I'm not really good with that. And I will do the event planning. I love community. I love bringing people together. I love planning things. So that was kind of my jam, and it all worked out perfectly.
So what inspired you, Sarah, then? I guess since you you both spearheaded this together. Let's face it; it was a collaboration, still is. But what inspired you to say, "I'm going to take a break from drinking"?
It had been years that I was battling with myself on this. I had a secret Pinterest board of what it would be like without drinking. And I was so afraid to take that leap. But it just was weekend after weekend of binge drinking. And I found myself only looking forward to the weekends in my life. And to me, deep down, I knew that wasn't okay. There's something deeply wrong when you're living for drinks and weekends. That means you are not living in alignment with who you really are. And I knew that for so many years and didn't talk to anyone about it because, gosh, I didn't want anybody to think I had a problem, So I lived in secrecy for a very, very long time with that going back and forth in my mind. So, April of 2022, I just, had enough experiences to say enough is enough. And that's when I decided to.
So for you, it wasn't more or less saying like, I'm an alcoholic.
Right.
It was more or less just, you didn't know how to stop or not. That's not the way I wanted to word that, but probably just afraid of what happened if you stopped, right?
Yes. What's on the other side of not having alcohol in your life every single weekend? What does that look like? I had no idea. And that is fear. And it's so scary to step outside of your fear. But, I made a post the other day when I hit the 18-month mark. It's like I stepped through that fear and a beautiful life was on that other side of the fear. And, it sounds like such a silly thing, but it's so ingrained in our society and our culture that, you look as if something's wrong with you if you don't. I didn't feel, I did the quizzes like, oh, am I an alcoholic? And they all came back, no, you're not. And I'm like, well, I don't feel that I am, but there's still something wrong. I was questioning the relationship. And I feel like if you're questioning a relationship with a substance, you should maybe explore that and follow that intuition.
Yeah. Maybe it's a certain form of being an alcoholic. Maybe it's not the stereotypical kind that most of us think of, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's many layers to every single thing in life, and especially with a relationship with alcohol too. And I know that especially for adults, it seems a lot of our activities revolve around alcohol, right? So, it's almost weird when there's not. And it's kind of like, wait, is there going to be, someone, so-and-so asks, your friend asks, is there going to be alcohol there? No, I don't want to go then.
I was that person too. I would never go to a dry event. I would hear people having dry weddings. I'm like, ugh, who would do that? Like I was the girl that there has to be alcohol at everything or I'm not there.
That's exactly how
True.
My wife's family reacted when they found out we were having a dry wedding.
Good thing you weren't invited.
At this point, I mean, this was just in June.
Oh, then I would have had a blast.
You would have had a blast, yeah.
You would have loved it.
But, they like to drink and have fun, So, that was, that's the exact reaction that we got. And you've been getting some great press on this too, on 3 Chicago TV stations now,
Yeah.
right? Or is it 4? I've lost count.
3 in a radio station.
Yes.
So,
right. Oh, was it GN? Or
WBBM.
It was BBM. Okay,
Yeah.
I knew it was one of the big ones.
Yeah. It's been. We just need 5 and 2, and we've made our.
And Good Morning America. We're also manifesting.
Oh, yeah.
That. We want Good Morning America. Would be
the
great.
Today Show.
Yeah.
Put it out in the world. We'll be there.
Yes.
And for you, Laura, did you have a similar relationship? You were just kind of like, you know what? I kind of like the way that sounds.
It's so interesting because we both have very different relationships. That's why I think it's so important with our dynamic here. But for me, I had just had 2 little ones. So I had Irish twins back to back. And for a while, when you're nursing and going through all of that, it's hard to want to drink and then wake up in the middle of the night and do nighttime feedings. And then also find social activities. You're going out with your friends. And I'm feeling guilty. I'm getting a babysitter so that I can go sit in a bar with people and have, mediocre conversations. So for me, when Sarah brought that up, I was like, I've never really aligned with drinking. I drank at a point in my life when I wasn't happy, but I wasn't in that state. I just didn't enjoy it. I'm like, I don't enjoy the taste of it anymore. I don't enjoy the feeling of it anymore. So why am I doing it? And I just felt like there's a stigma here to break. Like if I can do something different for my kids and not be the mom that's going out for wine nights, because that's what everyone's posting is mommy wine down nights, mommy wine nights. And I just wanted there to be something different. So when she kind of mentioned that, I'm like, hey, why not try something different? It doesn't really align with me. I don't crave it. I don't need it. I'm just doing it to fit in. So I stopped and I never looked back, but we have different dynamics. I never had an issue with it. I didn't look forward to it. I never felt my life was lacking was not having it. I just wanted a different dynamic, I think, with the mom life and social dynamic as well.
So AF Social more or less is kind of it's a welcoming of all different types of backgrounds of people's relationships with alcohol, whether it's a serious substance abuse or it's not really, I want to socialize, but I'm not a drinker.
Right.
So,
and even the sober curious, we call it sober serious, sober curious. And I want to make clear, we are not therapists, so we are not here to, if you're in the throes of a very deep addiction, this is probably not for you. Yeah. We definitely would say go to the therapist, go to the more intensive.
This is not AA.
No.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'll be honest, I did go to an AA meeting and I found that was not for me. I didn't align with the secrecy part of it. I think secrets in the same rooms of secrecy is loneliness. And I think there's a lot of things that AA might need to look at because I think it pushes away a lot of people. But with the AF Social, we have the AF Social and we have the AF Life. And the AF Life is a membership part and that is a little more along the lines of that sacred circle where we sit around and we share and we open up and we have a focus of the month and we get vulnerable with each other, but offer that support. We're not talking about alcohol the whole time we're sitting in our circles, but we're just talking about life. And I think that's healthy for anybody to have a community of people they can sit and talk with and feel that support. So there's a lot of dynamics to what we're doing. The number one dynamic is learning to have fun again without drinking.
And we're doing well at it.
Yeah. What are some of those things?
Yeah, so we've done quite a different events. Kayaking was one of them. We did this summer, which was really great. We went to a local, in Mokina, they have a cooking class. So we went there and took a cooking class together, which was really fun. We also did a salt cave, so where you go and meditate. That was in Frankfurt. So that was neat. We're just all about creating those experiences, things that you want to go do that maybe your spouse doesn't want to join you with, or your friends are kind of like, nah, I'm going to pass on that. We're trying to create those those experiences that people will want to come out and try and just be around a bunch of like-minded women, all on the same journey, just in their own way.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So is it like a once a month thing, or is it just kind of like whenever, or? I guess as far as you just pointed out, there's the life, and then there's the, I guess, event, right? The social event. So
yeah. So for the AF Social, we meet once a month for an actual event that's open to everybody. So in November, we're going to do the Glow Bingo, which is through Clove Alliance. So we got a table there. Everyone come and join us, hang out with us there for Cosmic Bowling. I call it Glow Bingo, but it's Cosmic Bowling. Or not, I'm saying Cosmic. Cosmic Bingo.
Cosmic Bingo.
Not there's no bowling. There's Cosmic. Yes.
That might be an idea for them. Bingo and bowling.
That'd be fun.
I like that.
I like that. Look at that.
So do we attach the bingo cards to the pins? And then
it could work.
That could be a thing.
Yeah. So that's November's event.
You're welcome, Clove.
Yeah. Appreciate that. And then AF Life, that is more of our structured. So we do meet the first Wednesday of every month for our Sacred Circle. And then we also do the third Sunday of every month for our Soulful Sunday, which is during the warmer months, we are doing a walk or some sort of a hike. And then during the colder months, we meet like a coffee shop. We did Panera last Sunday, and that was really nice just to get together and have a breakfast together and hang out.
Yeah. And how many are in the group at this point, or in the club?
So for AF Life, we have 13 members. Yeah. And then the community events range. I'd say our biggest event was Locavore Farms, and that was about 32 people, I think it was. So they average between 20 and 30 people, most of the events. So it's really great. And they're always different people. Like we had people today show up for our little AF's 1-year lunch that we hadn't seen in a couple of months. So it's always different, and you always don't know who you're going to meet or, who's going to show up. So it's fun.
Yeah, because I imagine some people, well, both of you can relate to this. Your lives are so busy. Sometimes you can't make it to every event each month that whatever the organization is that they're doing. So I'm sure there's a couple months where some people aren't able to go.
Right.
So yeah, that kind of brings in the rotation. I'm curious to know the requirements, I guess. Are there certain requirements to be a part of AF Social?
Just that you're a woman at this point. We really want to reiterate that a lot of people, and they've expressed it to us, that, I'm kind of nervous to go because I had a glass of wine last night. And we're like, there is no judgment here. We are not anti-alcohol. We don't discriminate people that drink. We're not preaching to people not to drink. That is none of our business, what people do in their free time and in their life. We are just here as a support system in case you're kind of wanting to socialize or try being out and about without drinking. I know that our first outing when we went to Coy, it was my first time, this is such a sad thing, sitting down with a group of women without alcohol, without a glass of wine. I was not sure how to socialize with them. I was nervous. I didn't have much to say because I didn't know how to bring up a conversation. And so I think that it's important to offer those opportunities to women to say, hey, can I do this? Maybe. Here it is. Try it with us,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, you're learning that new skill set of starting a conversation without having alcohol bring your guard down a little bit,
Which is so silly to me because I worked in the chamber world and I spoke in front of people all the time and had conversations with people all the time in my work world. Go to the social world, I'm a complete, I don't know how to act, which is insane to me.
Do you think that for yourself, you didn't have maybe as many hobbies or things like that before you stopped drinking? I
don't have kids, so I never had a reason to quit drinking when I was pregnant or whatever. And so that was our life. That's what you do. And so no, my hobbies were working out, eating healthy, and getting hammered on the weekends. That was it.
I love the transparency.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to laugh.
That is what it was. I'm very clear with that because I know that when people listen to this, they want to hear the rawness. They don't want to hear fluff. That at least when I listen to podcasts, I want to hear people being clear.
Sarah Marion, unhinged.
Yeah, exactly.
I love it.
That's what this podcast is going to be.
Right.
That's the title of this episode.
Yeah. But yes, I probably had other hobbies, but nothing that really but now without drinking, I found so many things I love. It's opened up that space for me.
What are some things that you've come to take up in the 18 months? Yeah,
so I'm still exploring. Obviously, 18 months sounds like a long time, and it is, but it's not really in the big scheme of things. No. I love watercolor painting. I love just self-development and just learning how to be better. And growing all the time.
And taking away that fog. That's a big thing. Yeah. I think when you stop drinking, you really do reduce a fog that kind of comes over you, that haze, where it allows you to kind of step into that self-development a little bit more, tap into that intuition a little bit more, because we have all of these things they're blockers. They really are. We're constantly, I would say, scrolling or keeping ourselves busy or drinking or whatever you're using to kind of cope. And once you kind of let go of that, you find those filters that, are no longer serving you. You can kind of step into stuff and really figure out who you are.
What are some new coping skills for either of you that you've kind of picked up along this journey? I know it hasn't been that long, but
I'd say for me, it would be our events where I have relationships with people I never expected. That's a big thing for me, where I learned to outreach a little bit better and say, hey, how are you doing? Like check in on people where before you're a little bit more self-centered maybe. I know that's a harsh type of, reality, but you're focused on yourself. Where now I actually hold space for people like, hey, what are they really going through? I remember so-and-so told me this. Let's check in on them today. So I think that's for me a big part is I have more time to check in with those friends that I'm building relationships with, especially those a part of our AF life. And that's really special and people I never expected, which is neat because we all align and like there's such a good conversation there and we just feel like you just jive. Mm-hmm. I don't know how to explain it another way, but everyone just jives really well. So that for me is big.
And Laura is a great support. For sure.
Oh, I believe it. I mean, she is a medium after all.
Yeah,
so.
She can feel when people need it. Yeah. For me, I've done all of the self-development. I dove headfirst into it. I've always been interested, but I really knew that it was important. Journaling, I will say, was the number one thing I needed to do when I quit drinking, and counting the days was really good to do just to feel accomplished. Also, talking about it to people I loved. So the day I decided to quit, I texted my friends and family. I said, hey, I'm going to take a break from alcohol. I'm still the fun Sarah, but please respect my decision. And I was very clear with that. I think if you're not telling people what you're doing, it's a lot easier to fall right back into your habits because no one's watching. So the journaling, the transparency, and I would also say just learning to meditate and be in the quiet. And you have to face so many scary things and feelings that you're not used to feeling because you're numbing out. And so just sitting with all the things, and over the course of 7 years, my mom and dad and my nephew all passed away. So I drank, when my dad passed, I wasn't drinking, at that time. So the difference between my mom passing and my dad passing, that the grief felt a lot different because I was drinking wine throughout my mom. I was drinking wine throughout my nephew, Michael. But then, with my dad, it hit different.
So I'm guessing you felt it more when your dad passed because you weren't drinking?
Strangely, the grief of my mom came flooding through.
Because you'd been holding back on it because you'd been flooding it. Yeah.
Because yeah.
It was very interesting.
Yeah.
It just finally kind of sank in and hit you when your father passed that. Wow.
Yeah.
Mom, I never really grieved properly for mom.
Right.
Because I was using alcohol to kind of drown it out.
But I do notice that my other addiction is busyness. I've switched addiction, so
that one's a little bit less harmful. I mean, as much as I don't like busyness, and I try to. That's like we're really good at kind of like, hey, Laura, she always says I want to do this, this, and this. I'm like, okay, but let's focus on this, right? Like you start here, we just slow each other down, but it's good because you need that ebb and flow. So, but yes, you are a busy bee. She likes to stay busy, but thankfully, look where it lands you when you put your mind to something. Sarah does that throughout everything she touches, so she always gets in there, and you get stuff done. And as you see in the community, everything you kind of touch kind of
she's
flourishes.
Always, I've always admired her.
She's not lazy. Like that's not a word you're going to get with Sarah. There's no laziness here, so it's a good thing.
That's something that I've always heard and read too is to be careful of picking up another thing while you're setting down one. It's easier to just pick up one thing to replace, and that could be replaced by, so many different things like busyness.
Yes. And it's funny because I saw this, I follow a lot of non-alcoholic groups and all that. And this one woman posted, it's Sunday and I have been so productive because I don't drink anymore. And I did this, and this. And so I wrote to her and I said, it is also okay to have a restful Sunday, especially when you are newly in sobriety, because you have to face those feelings and not push through the busyness or push through for busyness to forget about what you're going through. She never responded, but I don't think I think a lot of these people are boasting how productive they are because they're not hungover. While that's great, there's a lot more going on. Underlying that.
For sure.
My father-in-law is a recovering alcoholic, and he has been sober for 30 years, I think now. 31 years. And that is, I know that's one of his coping skills or I guess sometimes you could say addictions, is busy. He constantly keeps himself busy. And I think that was probably something he adopted early on in his journey, was to keep himself busy so he would not be less time to be tempted, to drink. And so I think that probably just stuck with him all these years. And so, yeah, he's constantly busy.
Yeah. And as a society, we are too. It's not just people recovering from alcohol or drinking. I mean, we are constantly, we don't know how to just sit still and be, I mean, when you were a kid, your parents would tell you, like, go sit in the corner and just stare at a wall or whatever it was, right? You had to be comfortable with silence. But now it's, we get an iPad out, we get a phone out, it's to go play with your, I mean, we're constantly keeping our children and ourselves so busy that we're not learning how to sit with our emotions and sit in our own selves. So
I mean, that's probably a big thing that I'm glad you pointed that out, Sarah, because that's probably a good tip for anyone that hasn't quite made the step into really going down the path of, it doesn't have to be alcohol, but any type of sobriety, of that, that first however many years, first 18 months to let give yourself space to feel things and not get too worried about getting too busy to where you can't give yourself time to feel all those things that you've been neglecting to feel. Do you think there will ever be a point in time where, I know AF Social just celebrated 1 year, but do you think it will always be just for women, or do you think it'll ever be a co-ed thing? I mean,
we've had a lot of men outreach. I know it's something that's a topic. It's hard to figure out that dynamic, because I feel like right now we have a social vibration and circle of women coming to collect. And if we add men into that, now we have a dating opportunity. And I don't know about, my husband is very open and cheers me on, but I don't know how he'd feel if he's at home watching the kids and I'm going out, hanging out with some women and some men, some maybe single. I mean, it just creates a whole other dynamic. We don't want to change that. Women support women and hold space and confidentiality, and we're more raw and open than we are once a male energy enters the room. At least that's how I feel. So I think it's an opportunity or something, but maybe a male-only group. I don't know if we'll ever. I don't know. I don't know my thoughts on that one, but it's tricky. If we're
unless it was maybe like couples.
Yeah, and I don't think we're the people to do that. I think.
I was just curious, because I'm sure that's a question that's been asked of.
Yeah,
of both
and
of
it has. There's been men that have asked LGBTQ. That's also another group, and I think the future, my dream is to have chapters, and so that's where that could happen. We are not the ones to have a men's group. We are not men. We don't know what men want. There's a man who could put that on so much better than we could. And so that's where the chapters can come into play, where, hey, you can use our name. We'll give you everything you need to start your own chapter, and the support that you need to get going. But that's where kind of our stuff ends.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking too, is maybe down the line you create a men's chapter and then
we'll leave that with you.
Maybe.
I mean, there's a need. I mean, put it out there. People, men associate. They socialize different. And my husband shared that with me too. He's like, I don't know how you guys just go all together and just get vulnerable. I mean, it just doesn't. Men are different, and that's okay. But it needs to be a man that runs that. Men get
vulnerable. I get vulnerable all the time. And I'm not a big drinker, I don't drink at all now. But I'm not. I was never a big drinker.
Yeah, I think it's definitely something that's needed in the community for sure. I think actually the men's group probably would be more popular than our group, because
I don't know.
You never know.
Yeah.
You never know. I would love to see that, because I think men don't get the support that they need because of the masculinity of it, and that, like, oh, I'm fine, I don't need that, And I notice when men do go out and they don't drink, other men give them hell.
Oh, yes.
Like, it is horrible. And I've seen it happen, and it's just cringeworthy how awful they are to each other when they're not drinking, and they're pushing it like it's like the last drink they'll ever have, and I don't get it.
Yeah, I don't either. I never have. I always, when I was an alcohol drinker, I got made fun of all the time for drinking the more girly drinks,
Like they don't have any let up. Man, it's bad.
It's everything they know.
Yeah. So women, I don't think are as bad about the pressure.
Yeah.
I've had it from both genders, but yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
It usually comes from the men.
Usually when it's women, you get asked the simple questions like, "Oh, do you have a problem? Are you pregnant?
Are you okay?
Yeah.
What's wrong with you?" And I'm like,
Yes.
why people think you can even ask that? Like, if anyone takes
Right.
anything from another part of this is if someone's not drinking, just give them space and let them not drink. Don't ask questions. It's none of your business. Let them do their thing.
That's a good point to bring up, too. It's not always because you're an alcoholic. It could just be because you simply don't like the way it makes you feel.
Correct.
You don't enjoy
Right?
it,
There's religious beliefs. There's so many different aspects why people don't drink. But
Yes.
we're
So I guess then going forward, we talked about it a little bit, maybe chapters, but what else is what is more in the near future for AF Social?
Well, we just launched, or we didn't launch, but we've just gotten our nonprofit designation, which is exciting. So we're building that. There's going to be a lot of work ahead of us for, building our board and making sure we're going in the direction that we want to be going in. So, that's, again, time and just doing it diligently and doing it right and not rushing. So that's really kind of where we're at now and just building and just being out in the community as much as we can.
Yeah. And doing your research, have you found that there's quite a few groups like the AF Social, like in the Chicago region or just in the country in general? Do you find that there's...
We found a couple. Like I found one that was based out of Naperville, so they do a very similar, like it's a group of women, but for more or less it's not as, I think we have that part where it's that AF life that separates us a little bit more, where it's that next step or that next chapter, where they're more or less just offering space for people to go and enjoy time without drinking. So it's kind of like more like a social event, which we do have that social aspect, but I think the AF life is what is really separating us from what I've seen out there, that support group, that actual, like you're being held accountable every month, you're, to yourself, to a group, like it's just, I think that adds that extra layer. And I think that that's so important because we don't see that. You just don't see that. You don't have people maybe not checking in on you, but you don't have those friendships being built. You don't have that next level. So for us, I haven't seen many things that are like what we're doing.
Yeah. And when I first quit drinking, I relied heavily on the virtual groups. I paid for several of them, got literally nothing out of it because I needed that personal connection and in person. And so that's what really makes us special, is because we have the in-person. And I think that really helps people. So there are hundreds of online groups, hundreds.
Oh, sure.
I mean, but as far as the in-person groups, yeah. And it's definitely different from AA because of the fact of the social part.
Yes.
We do have that kind of feel with the circles and that with the life, but that extra element of the social, which I think is just important, because you cannot hide in your basement the rest of your life because you stop drinking. You have to get out and experience life.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And that way you can socialize and not always have to explain your situation to all these people individually, because like AA is great, but I do kind of going back to what you said earlier, Sarah, about the secrecy. Like the secrecy is like, it's a great thing, but it's a terrible thing at the same time. It's a double-edged sword, I feel like. And with, having the social group and the support group in one, it kind of, I don't know, would make a person feel a little more comfortable, a little more ease when they do go out to socialize, because they're not going to a secret group, and then when they socialize, they'll open up individually to all these people. Then you have to tell your story 50,000 times over and over, and you probably might get sick of that.
Right. No, that's a good point. Yeah. So we build that dynamic. So, yeah.
And does it cost anything to be a part of AF Social?
Not for the social.
Okay.
If you attend a social event, there's usually a fee associated, just because most of the things we do.
Activity.
Yeah, and you just sign up through the events, and Laura does an amazing job curating these events. We now have an event committee officially. So we have more than just us doing these things, but you sign up online, and it's easy breezy, afsocial.org. AF Life is a different story. That's $25 a month. But what makes us most proud is that we donate 10% of those proceeds back to Women United.
Oh, great.
So it stays in the community, helps young women and girls through the United Way of Kankakee and Iroquois County. So, there's a lot of just good reasons to be a part of it. Even if you're not coming to our meetings, you're donating money to our nonprofit organization, but we're also giving it back to the community. So whether or not you can attend every meeting, you're still benefiting because you're getting that layer of accountability because you're paying everyone. But you have the opportunities to do all these fun things and get a discounted rate at our AF social events and all the things.
And make new friends.
Yeah.
And grow.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It's the cheapest therapy you'll get. That's what
I said. Truly, for $25, I don't know of any therapist that you could go to. But
we're not therapists either.
Yes.
We're not
there.
You're a peer support group.
Peer support.
We're here to be your friend, and you don't have to pay us to be your friend. We're just here to offer that space.
Yes.
And
But peer support does play a big role in therapy. It kind of actually rounds out, I feel like, a person's therapy.
Yeah.
If they're seeing a one-on-one therapist, which is wonderful, but there's things a peer support group can do that the one-on-one sessions cannot do. So I feel like it kind of rounds out, can round out a person's overall therapy plan.
Well, and that's why we collaborate with therapists. We have a link on our website with our trusted therapists listed there. And we've had conversations with several therapists in the area, and they are thrilled about this because they said a lot of their clients are so in need of this in addition to their therapy. So you're exactly hitting the nail on the head with that.
Yeah, definitely. So how can people get a hold of you? I know you put the website out there, afsocial.org. I know you're on Facebook as well. I'm not sure if you're on any other social.
Instagram as well.
You're on Instagram.
Yes.
Okay, I couldn't.
And I just started a new TikTok. I'm making mocktails. So Sarah Marion AF, if you want to follow me there.
That's awesome.
Blowing up.
That's the busyness.
Going viral.
Busyness. Yeah.
I mean, if you say it, then it's bound to come true.
Manifesting.
Right?
I'm going to check my TikTok after this podcast, and I'm going to have 30,000 views.
All right. Well, someone help us out and make this happen because want to make sure that we're worth it for Sarah. But yeah, what are some of the mocktails if you want to share, like a recipe that you've been working on?
I guess I can talk about the ones from WGN. So on WGN, we did a show, Daytime Chicago, and I had to make 2 mocktails with them. One was that I did the apple ginger fizz because that's an easy one. You have all the items in your pantry that you can put together. Just apple cider vinegar, and that is the secret ingredient to mocktails because it gives that extra kick. And also, I didn't put this in there, and you wouldn't want to put this one in there, but balsamic vinegars. So there's different flavors of balsamic vinegars. There's blueberries, there's raspberry, there's all kinds. You can add that to your mocktails, and it just gives that little bite to the drink. Anyway, apple cider.
Good for your body, too.
Vinegar. And then ginger ale and a little bit of lime and mint. And it's like fall in a glass. It's delicious.
That does sound delicious.
Yeah, I should have brought some today.
You did bring me a cookie.
I did.
Thank you for that. It's a delicious cookie. I hate to eat it. It looks so good.
She does a great job. Yes.
So you've got that one. What's the second one that you shared?
The s'mores one was really good too.
S'mores. I love s'mores.
S'mores was good. What did I do? That was like a
coffee,
a half and half. Cold brew coffee, just a little bit for that toasty flavor.
Oh yeah, yeah. You got to have that toasty flavor.
Yes, and I think that was kind of it. With some, the toasted marshmallows. Forget the drink itself. I'll just eat the toasted marshmallows, and then crushed graham crackers for the rim, and a little bit of chocolate syrup, and that was it. And so, I think. I'm started being known for making mocktails, and that's not really the point of why I'm doing any of it. It's really to, I like doing it because it gives me something to do at night, and it makes you kind of feel fancy. Like, instead of pouring that glass of wine and sitting there with that tradition that you have, why not, make a very nice drink for yourself as kind of an end of the evening. I don't make mocktails every night, but last night I had sleepy time tea, but it's just something to do and fun to kind of explore.
It's a hobby.
And and use those glasses, right? We all have wine glasses, so like we had a cabinet of them, and we weren't using them, so now we're using them for mocktails. I'll pour my seltzer water in there.
Put anything in a wine glass. It doesn't have to be wine.
Yeah, you can have fun with it.
And a lot of times it is that ritual that you have at the end of an evening. Like I used to love drinking wine and cooking dinner. That was my jam. Like Thursday, Friday night, Saturday night, loved that. And so now sometimes I don't need it anymore. But in my early days, I would pour kombucha or, sparkling water in a wine glass and drink it as I was making dinner because it's the glass. It's so weird the way your mind.
It's the motion, the action.
Yeah.
And the glass makes you feel like
you're on top of the world.
Sophisticated.
See, that's what coffee does for me.
You feel sophisticated?
I don't feel sophisticated, but it's the action, it's the comfort thing. I don't know if it necessarily makes me feel sophisticated, but it makes me feel comforted. Yeah. And I would think that maybe part of that was the same for you. But yeah, I suppose wine brings more sophistication than coffee.
And why? Why do we have that?
I don't know.
It's a norm. It's a social norm. It's like something that people just... I don't know why.
It's a habit.
It's a habit. Yeah.
It's habitual.
And media has made it very glamorous.
Yeah. Like like smoking. Cigarettes.
Back in the day.
Yeah.
Back in the day, that was what everyone did. And you see like Sex in the City, Carrie Bradshaw would be drinking every single night and making it look so glamorous, And growing up watching that, it's like, I want to be like her. And of course, like, how can you be like her if you don't drink the way she did? Not blaming Carrie Bradshaw for my drinking.
But she didn't help. We'll just say that. Right. I know exactly what you're talking about too. It's always it's the same in. Yeah, you're right. They've glamorized drinking and and it's not just drinking; it's other things too. But yeah, it's for the men's side of thing, is the the whiskey in a
smoking
glass,
not necessarily in a shot glass, but in an old fashioned. Yeah. There you go. Yeah, and that always looked like, wow, that looks like the most relaxing, manly. Thing,
right. What was the thing we were talking about where they just said they came up with a drink that you can fit a whole bottle of wine in? They were like like you were talking about how they're glamorizing.
The large Starbucks glass fits an entire bottle of wine.
It really? Oh my God.
But then again, like why do you know that? And
well, there's reasons they know that because they probably put their wine in there and took that Starbucks
so they could
to work. That Starbucks cup to work.
Or their kids' soccer games.
Or their kids' soccer games.
Or to teaching, whatever.
I had I knew a girlfriend I had in high school. Her mother would get a Polar Pop cup from the gas station, put Diet Coke and rum in there, and then go to her son's baseball games. So yeah, it's a thing.
Yeah, it definitely is a thing, and it's hard to break. It's really hard. I'm not here to make it sound easy because it's not.
No. But we are seeing more, like I said, since this has been around for the last 18 months, we've seen more places have mocktail options. They're starting to get that, that generation out there that we're starting to see a little bit of a shift, which is really important. So that's good.
Well, anything else, Laura or Sarah, that you want to share? I know there's a lot to cover.
Come join us. Yeah, come join us. Come
encourage.
Yeah. Cosmic bingo.
Yeah, and don't feel nervous or afraid. This is a no judgment zone. If you want to try to come to an event just to see what it's like and it doesn't work for you, we're not going to judge you that you never come again. I think there's sometimes that I don't want to be committed to going to these or, just come check it out. Say hi. If you're really kind of nervous about it, reach out to Laura or I via Facebook and we'll have coffee with you so you can just kind of learn a little bit more and we welcome you with open arms, whether you had a glass of wine the night before or not.
Yeah. And as you pointed out, it's not about that.
No.
Because you're bringing all these women together that come from all different backgrounds. Sarah's story is different than Laura's story, and then Tiffany's story is different from Trisha's story. So everyone has one person might be an alcoholic, the other person just doesn't like drinking. Yep. So you're just kind of bringing all those people together.
Sure.
And kind of just reiterating that you're not starting this because it's a fad or a trend. It's because you want to create a safe space for women to socialize without the
Pressure of drinking.
The pressure of drinking.
And giving people the permission that it's okay.
Yeah. Normalizing it.
Normalizing, yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, for sure.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank
We
you.
love having you on.
Yeah,
This was
this was
great.
fun. And if there's anything I can ever help out with, let me know.
We appreciate it
So
Thank
much.
you.
You're welcome. That concludes this episode of Kankakee Podcast. I'm Jake Lamore. Thank you so much for listening. Please hit the subscribe button if you haven't already, and follow us on social media at Kankakee Podcast. This episode has been made possible by our sponsors King Music, Noble Dairy Queen, Frank's Appliance Center and Sleep Source, Chicago Dough Company, Edward Jones Financial Advisor Adam Elroy, Allison Asher of Coldwell Banker Realty, Main Street Pharmacy, and D. Westfall Jewelers. Email Jake at yourpathfinder.io if you would like to become a sponsor or advertiser. And special thank you to our Patreon subscriber Teague Dreenan for supporting the show each month. Join at patreon.com/Kankakee Podcast, and you too could hear your name on a future episode. Kankakee Podcast is owned and produced by the fine team at Pathfinder, a full-service marketing agency in Kankakee, Illinois. Learn more at yourpathfinder.io. Our theme song is by Lupe Carroll.
This river carries